Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you guys are currently subscribers and have been around for a while, you'll know that every now and again we don't always do house videos. So as you can see from the title and the thumbnail, this is actually going to be about my new truck. So again, if you guys are here for the house, this is only going to be about the truck. So please don't get mad. We'll see you guys in the next video. So everyone else, stick around and stay tuned. All right, so again, new and old, everybody welcome. So I wanted to do this video, kind of a product review. Haven't really done much of these, if at all any. Obviously I did a little bit with the Porsche, and we haven't done too much with the AMG. And then not too long ago, obviously I just got this brand new 2021 Ram 2500. So I've been a car guy since high school. And in fact, I believe I was a junior going into my senior year when the Fast and the Furious came out. So 2001, that was kind of the start of it all, more of the more popular, everyone now knows cars instead of just like your diehard drag racing people. And obviously that sparked a huge generation of car people, $1 billion industry, and I've been a part of that ever since. I have seen every sort of snake oil product out there, from electric turbochargers that you can put into your intake, to fuel saver devices, to basically what we're talking about today. And that is a throttle cable horsepower adder thingy. And the one that I got here is the Banks pedal monster. Now, why do I say this is snake oil? Well, ever since a few years ago, gas pedals used to be controlled by a cable, simply attaching a cable to your throttle all the way up to your throttle body, and that was it. Well, when we started to go electric fly-by-wire, these products started coming out. And again, they always claim more horsepower, but to me personally, I don't think it's not true. It's not adding horsepower. But what it is doing is they're supposed to take your throttle body back to the old school cable throttles. And it took several years to me to actually think that this may actually be a thing, because I've been driving cars with electronic throttle bodies for years, for decades now. And it wasn't until a few years ago I bought a 2006 Jeep Wrangler that actually still used a throttle cable. When you go back to something like that and drive it around, you actually see how much of a difference there is. Now, a Jeep Wrangler TJ has 0 horsepower. It is not the fastest thing in the world. It doesn't go anywhere, do anything that great except for off-roading and stuff. But when driving that car after several years or even a decade of driving cars with electronic throttle bodies, it blew my mind that you can touch a throttle and the throttle body instantly opens up and the RPMs jump and the car lurches forward. Well, that's not the case with electronic. In fact, a lot of people say, and I think even Dodge Ram says, that their throttle bodies have about a 25% dead space, to where you do something and it actually doesn't go anywhere. You can stab the throttle to the floor and there's like a second delay that then the throttle picks up, or the RPMs actually move, and it's just not an enjoyable experience when you are going from new school to old school. You see that there's a difference. And again, it's not adding horsepower, it's that when you touch the throttle, it's doing actually what you want it to do. You're not getting hindered by the throttle waiting on a delay to send the signal to the ECU to send the signal to the throttle body, and then the things to actually start happening. So what a pedal commander, pedal monster, etc. are supposed to do is they're supposed to tap into the throttle body and give you some adjustability to where you're kind of going back into that old school realm. You're touching the throttle, it's doing what you want to do when you want to do it. So we're going to jump into this install, we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then we're going to go test it on the street and see if this actually works and makes this thing a little bit more enjoyable of a vehicle, or again, it's 100% snake oil. So the reason why I went with Banks is because their promo video pretty much talked me into it. The device basically consists of a module, and on the other end, it basically taps into your throttle. So you basically disconnect your throttle, plug that into the original connector, and then plug it back into the gas pedal. Well, the reason why this one seems to be so much better than other ones out there on the market is because other ones out there on the market pretty much just stop at this. They pretty much just have the module connected and that's it. Well, the reason why that's a problem is some cars freak out. The cars go into limp mode. They can actually kill the throttle, and basically you're with a dead vehicle and you have to unplug it and basically start back over, and it doesn't work. The reason why that is because your throttle pedal is only really supposed to see somewhere around 5 millivolts of electricity. Well, when you put on something like this, they're probably usually trying to demand the full 12 volts DC from the car battery. Well, if the ECU is sensing that something is connected to the throttle and it's trying to pull more than the millivolts that it's requiring, it freaks the car out and shuts down. Well, what's unique about the Banks pedal monster is the fact that it connects via OBD2 port by this cable, and this cable gets a full 12 volts directly from the battery. So the Banks isn't stealing power from the throttle, it's stealing power from where a power source actually is, and again, it's a full 12 volts. The other thing that's good about hooking into the OBD2 sensor is the module can sense actually what the car is doing. An example would be if you crank your throttle sensitivity all the way up, you put it in reverse and you're in a big truck and you're trying to hook up a trailer, maybe the throttle's too sensitive and you don't want to like lurch forward or backwards and hit the trailer. So by having a device that can read the OBD2, it can read everything that's going on with the car. So what gear you're in, what RPM you're at, are you in reverse? So one of the things that this thing can actually do is when you go in reverse, it shuts it off. It doesn't do anything with the throttle anymore. You go back to factory. So that has some adjustability that it maybe is a little bit safer, and that gives you a lot more versatility than just simply splicing into a throttle and manipulating it. Now, the other thing cool about the Banks is it is controlled via your phone and Bluetooth and with an app. So with the Banks, they have 3 different levels. You've got city driving, sport driving, and track driving. So, and I believe within each one, you can also adjust the setting. Now, from what I've seen from other videos, it looks like the sport setting, which is the middle, set at about halfway, seems to be like 100% perfect. So to me, that would hopefully feel like going back to the old school way and having a direct throttle cable from the pedal all the way to the throttle body, and to give you that experience again. So we're gonna dive into the install here, get it hooked up, tell you what I'm doing, and then again, we're gonna go out on the street, test it out, and actually see if it's worth it. So real quick, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna get the keys away from the truck, because we don't want the proximity sensor knowing that we're here, because we do have a push button start, and we're gonna disconnect the battery, and then we'll go from there. All right, so per Banks, we got the keys more than 10 feet away from the vehicle. The negative battery cable has been disconnected, and then we open and close the door 10 times to kind of draw out any power. And a few other things you can do is like step on the throttle, hit the brakes, kind of basically just drain whatever power there may be so that nothing's going on. So first thing we're gonna do is disconnect the factory cable from the throttle, and then we're gonna go ahead and tie in, and then we'll go ahead and connect to the OBD2 port. All right, so there's the plug that we're after right there. It looks like it's just a simple push the button in, pull it out, and then we'll go ahead and connect the Banks. All right, done and done. Now, on this particular vehicle, there was no locking tab. It was simply pushing the button and pulling off. But some vehicles and the Banks actually come when it plugs back into the throttle itself. It does have a push button, but there's also a red locking tab that slides in after, so that way you can't accidentally push the button and pull it off. But the factory female part, the female connector, does not have that locking tab, so technically it could still fall off, but if it doesn't fall off from the factory. It's not going to fall off on there, but Banks does include that red locking tab for a safety feature, as again, a lot of vehicles do have those safety elements on there, so they can't accidentally be pushed down and then pulled out. All right, last step is simply connecting the connector to the OBD2 port. On most vehicles, it's sitting around kind of by your left foot. You'll notice that all OBD2 ports look just like that. So very simple, just push it up in there. There is no lock. There's no button on these. They simply just hold in by friction because there's about 15 or so pins in there holding it. But simply connecting it in, and now we're gonna go ahead and reconnect the battery and give this thing a kind of a startup. All right, so we're not gonna start it up just yet. The first thing we wanna do is, obviously we got the keys now. We're gonna not start the car, but we're gonna turn the auxiliary off or turn it on by just hitting the switch 2 times. What we should see down here on the unit is there's 2 lights on here. The first one, we should be able to see a blinking green light. That's telling us that the unit is getting power. And then we should see an amber light that it's ready to be connected via Bluetooth to the phone. So we go ahead and hit twice on that. And that's exactly what we should be seeing. So we've got a blinking green light. We do have power. Now we're searching for Bluetooth. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the app and search for device. And there is a button on the back of the module that it says that we need to push so that we can pair. Now you can see that both lights are both blinking green, and we are now connected, and we can now begin, it looks like a vehicle calibration, and then we can go ahead and pick our modes and hopefully go out for a test drive. All right, so you guys are doing this live with me. So I just noticed on the app, it says select your vehicle. My vehicle is actually not listed. It's actually only listing the Rams every year for the 6.7 Cummins diesel. So that means we have to click standard mode. And unfortunately what I'm seeing that say is if your vehicle is not listed, select the standard mode, which means we may not actually have the reverse safety mode enabled. So in reverse, I'm actually not sure what that's going to do. Does that mean it's still going to be a sensitive throttle, or I mean, it must be, because it won't be able to shut off knowing that I'm actually in reverse. Here's the app that we're dealing with. Like I said, it looks like you can go ahead and press stock, city, sport, and track. And when you connect to each one, you also have a meter here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drive around and stock real quick, give it some revs. Hopefully you guys can see it, and we'll see how much sensitivity there is. You guys aren't gonna be able to tell, but I'll give you my 100% honest opinion, and we'll go from there. Like right now, I'm hitting the throttle and nothing's happening. I mean, it moves a little bit, but there's definitely a dead spot in the pedal. So may not be able to tell too much with revving, but let's go out for a quick drive on the street in regular city mode, or stock mode. No real surprise there. Feels like a factory truck. I mean, it's a 6'4" Hemi and like a 6,000 pound truck, 400 plus horsepower and torque. I mean, it gets up and goes. But yeah, I mean, you're pushing the throttle down. It feels like there's a little bit of a delay. Nothing, again, that I can really place my finger on, because I've been driving vehicles like this for so long that I can't really tell a difference. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it, not the full beans, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it to sport mode right in the middle, because that's where people said they felt the most difference, or was the most comfortable driving around. But people said even in city mode, at a low setting, the truck feels night and day. But I want to not jinx myself or trick myself into thinking that there's actually something there. I want to go ahead and get it to that city or sport middle mode, and actually be able to tell if there is a difference. All right, let's see what this one does. Yeah, there's a difference. There's a big difference. So I'm not being paid by Banks. This is just me reviewing the product myself that I paid with my own money and bought. There's a difference. So right now we're in sport mode, about 1 to 2 clicks over halfway. So it's basically making the throttle a lot more sensitive. on my motorcycle, on my race motorcycle, I had my last one was a 2007 Kawasaki 600 cc that I raced for Wera Super Sport. And what I did on that throttle was we manipulated the throttle that while motorcycles are cable actuated, instead of taking your wrist and going from here all the way over to here to go to full throttle, we put an adapter piece that took up the space. It basically made the wraparound throttle a lot fatter, so now you could go full throttle. Instead of going from here to here, you could go from here to like here, so only like a quarter turn. That's basically what it's doing. It's manipulating how much to depress before you get that wide open response. So again, while I don't think it's adding horsepower, it's making it a lot more user-friendly and available. That it's a lot easier to input and put down, and it just makes the feel of the truck, it's got like giddy up and go a lot better. All right, so is it worth it? I paid $295 for it. Is it worth it? It's fun. You definitely have to be a little bit more sensitive with your inputs, or else I think you're going to be burning through a lot more fuel. Online it says that it actually can help save with fuel. Not exactly sure how that is if you're constantly stabbing those RPMs up a lot more. Right now we're still in sport mode, a little bit above halfway. But yeah, I mean, I think when you're towing up inclines or you're having to merge in and out of traffic, I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. That you're not stressing your leg out, you're not having to overdo it. When you want the power is there, instead of like that little bit of a delay that I was talking about before. But it's definitely noticeable. It's not a snake oil. It is doing something. Is it worth it for you to do it? That's up to you and how you want your vehicle to respond. Again, we've got a heck of a lot of versatility here with going, it looks like to be about 8 or 9 points maybe per each mode. So again, city, sport, and track, or you can just turn it off altogether and leave it in regular stock mode. But it does something. It is manipulating the throttle, giving you a much different experience in my opinion. So again, is it worth it? That's for you guys to decide, but I'm gonna leave it on here because it does make this truck a hell of a lot more peppy, and getting into gear and going, you're definitely, if you're not careful, you're gonna be doing some burnouts turning around corners, especially in a truck. Luckily for this truck, we've got the factory anti-limited slip differential in there, so I am more or less using both rear tires instead of just one. I have had Rams in the past that did not have that, and the trucks were almost useless. If there was even a mist on the ground and you're at a stoplight or a stop sign and you go to push the throttle down, your rear back tire on the passenger side just does a burnout and you go nowhere. That truck, I was constantly throwing it in four-wheel drive so that I could actually take off just from a light. But the limited slip differential or anti-slip differential that's in the back of this factory, what hell of an upgrade that you can actually take off and you don't be needing to use four-wheel drive all the time. But I do like it. It is fun. It's whether it be a gimmick or not, it puts a smile on my face, and it's up for you guys to decide if you're gonna get one or if you think that it's worth it. I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I'm glad you guys came along with me. Again, if you guys are new subscribers, welcome. I am building my own house. We talk about cars and trucks. I do like motorcycles and guns also, so there's a little bit of everything on the channel. But if you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.